For centuries, we've been told what is pure and what is sinful, what is allowed and what is forbidden. Somewhere along the way, we severed the human from the divine. We silenced intuition, shamed the sacred, and buried ancient wisdom. But here, we remember. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast, an exploration of the mystical, the intuitive, the cosmic forces that weave our existence. This is a soulful sanctuary where we embrace the strange and unusual and use it as fuel to reclaim the magic, restore the sacred, and discover ultimate truth. Come and share your stories in a space where fierce hearts and fantastical gifts are not only welcomed, but needed. So take a bite. You were never meant to be forbidden. Welcome to the Forbidden Fruit Podcast. We are your hosts, Jeanette St.Germain and Catherine Kells. And in today's episode, we explore timelines, dimensions, and alternate realities. Join us as we explore what it means to be divinely human and experience our multidimensional nature. Whenever I've connected with spirit, I just always have this knowing that I signed up for certain things. Even if I don't like it, even if I want to change it, I have this knowing that my soul is this infinite, badass being, and coming to Earth is like coming to the most fearsome roller coaster ride in the universe of our awareness. And so why wouldn't we want to come here? Why wouldn't we want to stand in line for 3 hours to get on that 5-second or 50-second or whatever 3-minute roller coaster that we're going to scream, we're going to laugh, we're going to cry, we're going to puke, we're going to figure out what a corn dog is, all those things. And as an infinite soul without a body that doesn't know what a roller coaster is, or at least doesn't know what it feels like from the perspective of a body, that all sounds awesome, right? But then you come here and you're like, what the flip was I smoking? Right? You come here and there's all these things that seem really difficult and hard and not fun because we forgot that it's a cool roller coaster ride. So there's that paradigm. But then there's another paradigm that when we zoom out, I think some of us don't necessarily choose. I think some of us come to this planet because we saw a portal open and we jumped in the hole. And I've done some energy work with clients that show this too, like that they were trying to escape from something else, or I've seen where there's been a really massive soul fragmenting happening. And so spirit opened up the portal for someone to leave that lifetime. And they were so discombobulated. They went through multiple portals and didn't end up like where they were supposed to. And they ended up in a body, like in another life, before they did all their work to clear it all out. But then if I zoom out more, that was already planned as well. Like that was part of the plan. So it's like, whoa, it's not this linear step-by-step ladder that we seem to think it is. Mm-hmm. I've also seen people where part of their consciousness, this is going to get really weird. I don't know if I want to share all this.
No, we were just having fun and you just got all dark.
Oh my gosh, shit.
Keep going. Let's see.
Okay. So this has happened with multiple people. It's rare, but I've seen it a couple of times. Where it has to do with timelines. And I don't know if it's part of like a star being loop or like an ET loop or something, but I've seen where people come in and they go somewhere else. They have like 20 or 30 years somewhere else while they still have a human life. And they maybe they go, and I've seen it where they're like in the mines on Mars. I don't even know if there's mines on Mars, like under the surface of Mars, right? But I get this vision, could be a metaphor, could be literal. I don't know. But I get this metaphorical, or I get this vision of somebody stuck in the mines on a planet like Mars, and they're there with like millions of other humanoid beings, and they're working for this, some kind of authority. They're basically enslaved. And then what they'll do is they'll take these humans, they'll work them for 10, 20 years until their bodies collapse and they're basically useless for the mines. And then they will erase the 20 or 30 years of memories, and then they will plop them back in their human lives in the same exact moment that they were taken out.
I remember when I was probably, I had to have been like 12 or something, that I had this recurring dream, and we'll get really kind of weird. So I had this recurring dream that for like 3 months at a time, where every night I would be doing the same thing. And fast forward to awareness now of kind of what it felt like was occurring. But when I was 12, I had no idea. And it felt like I was going to this other place, this other version of reality that was very, very similar to here, but it was different in very subtle ways. So I felt like I was pregnant. I, and not, by natural means, I was implanted with a child.
Yeah. Immaculate
And
conception.
well, that's what I thought. I understood. That was my awareness at the time. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And I remember when I would wake up, I'd be like, where am I going to put the crib in my room? That's how real it was. And I'm like, I didn't even know about the concept of sex at that point. So this was pretty out there. But I was like, there's a baby. There's a baby coming. And I kept feeling like this awareness. And I remember every once in a while throughout the day during this time frame, I would feel like phantom kicks that I didn't know what was going on at the time, and I couldn't piece it together because I'm 12. And but then when I was an adult and pregnant and having a child for real in this lifetime, I was like, that's what that was. And just like, how? So anyway, so back, during this couple month time frame, I remember that as I was having these dreams, I gave birth to a baby. I was living in someone else's home. I was their nanny. I fed the baby. I took care of the baby until she was like 2.5, I think. And then they returned me back to my 12-year-old self. And so I got to go as a 12-year-old, go through this awareness of being pregnant, giving birth, having a baby, raising a baby for that period of time frame, and then losing the baby because it went back to the genetic parents who I was apparently living with, and having this crazy experience and how that all pieced together. And I couldn't put my finger on like what happened, because clearly that's not possible because I was 12. And I didn't go to some other, I know what state it was in. That's how visceral it was. But it's like, there's no way what I was dreaming could have been not real, when those dreams are so much more real than your reality when you wake up in the day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I perceive I think of it more as parallel realities rather than timelines. The
Is
stuff
there a
that
difference though?
I maybe not. So because time doesn't really exist. And we were joking about that a minute ago, but like it doesn't, right? So the story that you're having, I've had some similar experiences like that when I was like a preteen. Yeah, 11, 12 years old, similar kind of thing. And I never really pieced that together. So thank you for sharing some of that. I'm a little bit creeped out right now. Okay. But I love it. Not creeped out by you. But it's also, it's all, I'm just all over the place. Don't give me coffee. All right.
I didn't even have coffee.
Shiminy cricket. Well, we just get giggly when we get together. It's why I love you. Um,
Thank you.
our little fairy star being energies come out to play.
What if
Um,
it's different timelines merging all in the same place, all at the
that's
same time?
exactly. Yeah.
Call it, label it, whatever you want, if it's a
Yeah.
different timeline or if it's reality,
Mhm.
or this concept that, you know, you could just be plucked from one spot and go back to another
Mhm.
spot. What if it's all
Mhm.
the same? Just
I
different
think it
ways of
is.
looking at the same thing.
I think it is. I think it's all the same. And so that's why I get a little bit uncomfortable with some of the labels. Like even when we do past life work, like we can do timeline work, right? In quotes, timeline work with our clients and with ourselves, where we go to a so called past life, or we go to the Akashic records and we get a record of many different lifetimes. We can go to lives between lives. I mean, there's books written on this with people under hypnosis and sharing past lives and future lives and lives between lives. And so a lot of this stuff is well documented. But I mean, I can go into a meditation and connect with any aspect of my consciousness at any point in time not being relevant, right? I can just say, hey, my human brain wants to understand that this is a future aspect of myself. My human brain needs to understand this is a past aspect of myself. But time is not linear. The human experience is not linear. The soul is not linear. But from our perspective of reality, it is. In truth, I think it's more cyclical, right? It's like the changing of the seasons. There's cycles in our lives, moments of transformation, moments of death and rebirth, and part of the cycle. But I don't think that it's this linear step ladder approach that we tend to
Oh
have as
no.
humans. So
Well,
yeah, go
that's
ahead.
just how your brain wants to understand it, to be
Mm-hmm.
able to put the label on, to piece it together so it can create that order within your brain.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is listen to your heart. Your heart just
Mm-hmm.
needs to know, because your heart can translate it. And I don't know, there's got to be a name for it. I can't think of it at the moment, but when you have this like translator device and it's a perfect translation, you get some like auto generator, you just Google Translate or whatever, and it's like, it's not perfect. There's grammar stuff all over. It needs help. But that's like your brain trying to comprehend whatever's going on and make sense of the experience. But
Yeah.
if you listen with your heart, that's the perfect 100% correct and accurate translation. That's what you got to come back to in that moment of what do you feel, because it's all about feelings. It's not about the words or the labels or whatever, or everything. And at any moment you have access to all these things. You could even call it an archetype.
Yeah.
Whatever the archetype that metaphor that they gave you, or they gave me in that experience, was trying to explain, was
Mm-hmm.
just trying to nudge you along on your path.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting we're having this conversation about like timelines and dimensionality and alternate parallel lifetimes, right?
Mhm.
I had an experience that, how do I explain it? It's like, okay, so just full disclosure, right? Um, there's lots of tools that we can utilize to expand our consciousness. And one of those tools is meditation. Another one would be sound healing, breath work, energy work. There's all kinds of different tools. Well, one of the tools that I love so much is plant medicine and entheogenics and the sacred spirituality of the consciousness of Mother Earth that comes to us through different plants. And so, was it last year? Maybe the year before? I can't remember. There was a psychedelic conference in Phoenix, and it was supposed to be about the science and spirituality of psychedelic medicine. And so I'm like, yay, sign me up. Okay. And so I went and was going to this 3-day conference where they're talking about the science and spirituality of plants and how it's helping people with all these different things. And on the first night of that conference, now I had not really, they hadn't really talked about any of the plants that I like want to know about or even have experience with. They were talking more about working with plants for anxiety and depression and PTSD. They were actually talking more about ketamine therapies and things that are cannabis, things that are legal. It wasn't really in that realm of the psychedelic mind expansion and the place where you can travel between worlds. They weren't really in that scope yet. Okay. But I know that scope exists because I play in those fields, like completely sober, and it's fun. So that night, after being at the conference all day, I was having a dream, I guess you could call it. And it was not a dream. It was one of those moments where I literally felt like I was in a plant medicine experience. And I could sense the consciousness of the dream slash vision slash experience that I was having. And I could sense the me that was the character playing out whatever was happening in the dream. And I could sense the higher self me that was watching the me character playing out this thing. And then I was also sensing the me that was the consciousness of the whole darn thing. Okay, so multiple levels of consciousness, like the Russian dolls, they're all inside each other. That's kind of what I was
Oh yeah.
experiencing. And so in the dream, I was watching a version of myself that was sitting at a table in my great grandmother's house that doesn't even exist anymore in my current lifetime. And I was my 16, 17, 18-year-old self, or maybe like in my early 20s even, but I was younger and it was in black and white. So I knew that it was like the past. Just for our listeners, I dream a lot in color. I do not dream a lot in black and white. So when something is black and white, that means something metaphorically for me. But the black and white, and I was sitting at a computer and I don't know if I was on a dating site or sending an email or something. It was very odd. But I was in this state of, oh, I had this really crappy relationship and it really broke my heart. And oh, there's got to be something better. Right. I remember that energy back from when I was a teenager, young adult, that energy. So that was coming up. And as I'm on the computer, this thing pops up from this person. And apparently she was some kind of psychic energy healer. I was not in this time frame. I was just on the computer looking for my soulmate. Okay. And so this message pops up and she's like, hey, how's it going? I haven't heard from you in a while. And the me that's watching the character on the computer is like, who the fuck is this person? Why am I sitting at my grandma's house? Like, what's going on? What do you mean I'm looking for a soulmate? I'm married, I have kids, right? I've got this whole like inner dialogue happening as I'm watching the character that's also me. And the character that's the past or the black and white version of me is talking um to the texting to the psychic energy person. And she's like, oh yeah, you know, everything's okay with my marriage, right? So apparently she's married, but her husband's name was Dave. And she had 2 kids, not 3. And, and I'm like, wait, the other me that's watching me is like, wait, that's not my husband's name. Like, what's going on? Like, I was getting very confused. And so she starts talking, and the psychic person is like, oh, well, you really need to clear this other energy from before. You need to get rid of this energy that's draining your life force, this person that's connected to your soul, because, it's affecting your marriage. And I was in this marriage place with this guy named Dave, apparently, and I was questioning the marriage, right? And so I started getting like really panicky, the me that's observing the me. I had this knowing somehow that I was in the wrong timeline. And I had this fear that I was going to get stuck, that I was going to get stuck in this liminal space between the dimensions with memories of the lifetime I'm currently in with that consciousness, but then watching out these other lifetimes. And I started to get panicky. And then all of a sudden, I felt this whoosh and like a white light and a whoosh. And I got yanked out of that and I got plopped into another version of some other reality where I'm watching me. I'm conscious of the me that's the dream itself and the me in front of me. And this me in front of me felt very evolved, felt almost like a future version if you were to give it that label. Okay. She was older than the current consciousness I am in my awareness of this life. And she was sitting in this beautiful, uh, completely made of all wood maloka. I think it's a maloka. I've never been in a maloka, but that's the word that pops in my head. And she's sitting in this maloka, and there's this golden light just emanating from the earth, and it's coming up and it's filling the space with this golden light. And you can see windows and doors. It's all made of wood. It's open to the outside, but it's a container, and it's in the shape of a hexagon with like a roof that points up. And I was like, ooh, bees. I love bees. I was getting the symbols of bees, right? And so I'm watching this version of me, and I saw this circle of women, and they were in these beautiful like flowy gowns with like little flowers on them, and they had been in a circle around their teacher. And their teacher was this really old, wrinkly, stooped over woman that just radiated so much love and presence and no bullshit kind of energy. And somehow I knew her. I've seen her. She's one of my guides that she actually came to me in a plant medicine ceremony with Mama Ayahuasca. But anyway, I get the understanding that she is a Mayan connection, a Mayan ancestor, and like some kind of ancient elder energy. Okay. So she's there, and these women are there, and they are teaching. They're being taught. She's teaching them about Bufo. And I kept hearing in the air, Bufo alvarius, Bufo alvarius, Bufo alvarius. Like the air itself was speaking to me, this vibration. And in my consciousness that was observing, I was like, Bufo? What? I'm scared of Bufo. What is happening? How? And in the circle, I was being trained on how to work with Bufo, how to facilitate the medicine and how to work with it as a consciousness. And the training was all about restoring the feminine and restoring the energy of the divine into this container, and how the divine is this feminine energy that needs to be rebirthed in the world of earth that has forgotten. It was this really incredible download of what they were doing, and I was a part of that. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I started to get this like weird feeling like, okay, this seems cool, but why am I here? And am I getting stuck again? um, what's happening? And then I felt this energy go down my spine, and I looked at the person that was me that I'm observing, and her spine shivered, same as mine. And then she turned and she looked directly at me. So she was aware that I was there. I was aware of me. And she looked at me, and she said, like somehow telepathically said, stay, with her finger, like stay, like shh, quiet, and stay, like be still. And I was like, okay. I wasn't gonna fight with her. She was like emanating this power. I'm like, okay. And then she turns, and all the other ladies had left. And the teacher was coming back, and she was saying, why are you still here? Do you need something? And the me that I'm observing says, yes, we need some help. A part of me is stuck, and we need to get back to the right timeline. And
Ooh.
and the teacher looked, she saw me as well. And she was like, oh yes, you're not supposed to be here right now. And then I looked at her, and then I saw this weird flash in her eyes. And I had this knowing in that moment. I felt almost like my angelic guidance team kind of like letting me know this is exactly where you need to be. And I was like, what? All this is happening very quickly. Okay. And the me that I'm watching sees the flash in the mentor's eyes. She kind of looks over her shoulder back at me. We have this really quick exchange of like something, we have to do something. And somehow we knew that something was trying to come in to our teacher, into her avatar, and was trying to hide itself. Like we saw this weird flash. Both of us saw it. And me being there had brought it up to the surface because it was having like an oh shit moment. And it was taking stock of what was there, like who's in this room, right? So the teacher was like, oh yeah, she doesn't belong here. We need to get rid of her. But the way she said it was not her normal way. That was not her normal energy. Her normal teaching would have been like, if she's here for a reason. Let's find out what it is, right? That's the way the teacher would have normally responded. So we knew there was something off, or at least the me I'm observing knew. I just saw the flash. And so the me that I'm observing starts talking to the teacher and asking very specific questions and engaging with this other that's now showing up inside the teacher. And I don't know if it was an energy of spirit or an energy of technology. I had the understanding from my limited perspective that there was some form of technology. I saw almost like this static or like weird nanite kind of energy around the teacher. And I saw it like flashing in her eyes. It didn't feel like an enmeshment of some other weird energy. It felt like some kind of technology. And it felt like something that also understood timelines and dimensions and knew how to hop around through technological or electrical means. And humans are electrical beings, right? So they just plug into the electrical system. So the me that I'm observing somehow asked the question, and the teacher did not respond appropriately. The teacher started to get very agitated. And I can't remember the exact question. I wrote all of this down because it was like a movie, how vivid and intense it was. And we asked the question, she gets activated and she starts to stand up like, okay, we're done. You need to leave, kind of thing. And at the same moment that she stands up, me and the me I'm observing rush in and we grab her arms. Somehow I had a ability to do that at this point. You go and grab her arms and hold her to the earth. And as the me that's in body is helping to hold, she tells me to let go and energetically bring these objects around the room, like a special stone, a certain feather, like there were certain objects. And we had to bring them around, put them in a really quick, like sacred geometry pattern, and basically create the foundation to open an energetic portal. Okay. And I didn't know what I was doing, but the girl that I was observing, that's also me, she knew. And so I did what she said telepathically. And then we real quick, like just somehow we started saying these prayers and we were drawing these symbols in the air. And this energy was being asked to leave the teacher. And I remember seeing some of it go out, like this like cloud of static. And then I felt myself get shoved back really, really hard. And I like felt like I hit my bed, like I was floating above the bed and I hit it. Like that's what it felt like. I came back into my body so hard, so fast. And I was laying there, like struggling to breathe. I'm hearing this echo, Bufa Alvarius, Bufa Alvarius, Bufa Alvarius, over and over. And then I saw the face of the mentor teacher. And she said, you did well. Thank you. You did well. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? Oops, I don't know if I'm supposed to. What the heck just happened? And I'm laying there and I'm like trying to open my eyes very slowly. I'm afraid to open my eyes. I'm like, what if I'm laying in bed next to that guy named Dave? What if it's not the husband that I chose? Like I'm scared because I don't know if I'm stuck in another loop. Everything is so real, so visceral, right? but I felt like I was in my own body, at least, not just observing myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shaking. I was like, is she okay? Did I get back in the right place? Did I do something wrong, or did I do something good? Was I helpful? All those questions are coming in. And so I just felt the mentor, and then I felt my other self, like my future self, say thank you. She like downloaded this energy of knowing that I had to be there, that it took two of us to do the work that had to happen. And I was like, okay, so some other part of me called this other part of me to come help with this thing from another timeline. I'm like, this is so trippy. And I am completely sober. Okay. And so I slowly open my eyes. I'm breathing and I'm like, okay, this looks like my bedroom. And I can feel this body next to me. And I'm like, please be my husband.
Not Dave.
Right. And I just really carefully like look, and it's him. And I am just like, what the actual heck just happened? Right. So somehow there's no way I could sleep after that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I get my journal and I go out into the dining room and I just start writing. And I probably wrote 12 pages of downloads and the prayers and all the things that were coming in during this vision. And yeah, so that happened. And then the next day at the psychedelic conference, they had people sharing about Bufo alvarius.
Okay.
And so it was this really interesting opening, I guess, that had been created because I was at the psychedelic conference wanting to learn about these plant medicines. I was there really to learn more about the spirituality of it because that's what intrigues me and that's what resonates for me. I love the therapeutic. I don't really care about the molecular structure of things, right? The itty bitty nitty gritty science of it. And they did a lot of that as well. But the healing capacity and the spiritual connection capabilities fascinate me. So I felt like somehow the Bufo alvarius consciousness opened me up to having this experience, or I was called to it, whatever. I'm not really sure, but yeah, timelines and dimensions, baby. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in a dream state.
Without medicine.
Yes.
That's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting, opening up those potentials and the awareness when you allow your gifts to activate and to grow and to fine tune them, of just realizing what connection is out there, because everyone has these dreams. Maybe not quite as cool as yours, but
It was
you
pretty cool.
you get the gold star. You win number one. Okay,
Oh,
so maybe not
not a
as
competition.
no. But everyone has these things and no one talks about it. No one, if it's
Mm.
not socially acceptable, you can't, be in an elevator with somebody and be like, hey, Bufo Various. No, you can't just do that. And talk about like what experience you had, because people are going to put you in the crazy house.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you're not actually crazy? What if these experiences are everyday experiences that everyone has, but people just aren't willing to open themselves up to that potentiality, that they are interdimensional beings,
Yeah.
that these things are normal? What does that mean for the way that we live our life, knowing that at any given moment, you might have some friends up there watching you and watching and
Mm-hmm.
having experiences and learning and growing because of your experience, and what a
Mm-hmm.
gift that could be for others, even in the
Mm-hmm.
mundane and boring experiences you have. But for those that are observing and that are connecting to your timeline, call it whatever, that how can you be of service? How do you live your life knowing that those connections are always there? And that for those that are willing, you can tune into that and you can work with that energy and expand yourself. And what does that do for other energies? How does it
Mhm.
benefit other energies? Seeing that potentiality of that beautiful connection that by you being in service to this future other version of you, we're all versions of each other, but that other version of you, seeing how that assistance expanded that creation and bringing it back to yourself and how it's changed you and seeing that domino effect because that means it changed everyone and that's how you connect into that unified field of everything
Mm,
being open and being willing and being in service.
yeah, it was definitely a place of exploring my multidimensionality and multiple levels of consciousness and seeing the way that I have evolved my consciousness and seeing that there's still so much more. And I'm so excited for that. Like, there was no shame or guilt or blame or feeling of, well, how come I'm not better yet? Or how could I still have a part of me that's stuck in those old codependent, toxic relationship patterns? Like, all of it was so beautiful. It was like they were laying out these parts of me that are a part of me, and they all have their part to play, right? In the symphony, this symphony that creates Jeanette, and then how it interacts with others. And it was really, really fascinating. Um, I have a lot of dreams that are very strange and unusual. And I tend to go into those multidimensional places quite easily. But that was one of the ones that was like, I was being taken for a ride, right? I was literally the observer, and I knew to step in when I was called, and I didn't know what to do or how I knew what to do, but I knew what to do, right? It was like being able to merge all those level of consciousness into the oneness that is the truth and that was required in that moment. And I don't need to know the who, what, when, where, why of it. Doesn't matter, right? Just to show up and be a being of love, like you said, just be that. And I think that's why I'm so excited for this podcast. Like, I want to talk about these places that we can go, these topics that are forbidden, right? And restore consciousness to that place, because how can we walk around half alive? How can we walk around half alive and say that we fully experience what it is to be human? When I let go of this lifetime, I want to know that I have lived so fully, that I have explored who I am, not only as a physical being, but as an energetic, feeling being, a being that can connect to these other realms and other dimensions and other timelines, because we all have the ability to do that. And why wouldn't I if I can? Right? All
Mm-hmm.
of us can be superhuman. That is our natural human state.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little scary to share some of this stuff, because I don't want people to judge or label. But in the end, they're going to think what they're going to think. And I can share what I want. It's my podcast. If they don't like it, they can turn it off.
Now would be a great time to turn it off. Just kidding. So,
No, don't turn it off. We have more.
and I just remember how like these breadcrumbs are planted for us
Mm-hmm.
to help us go through this awakening process. And they're all over. And I get so excited when I find another kids movie because teaching the kids these tools is like my passion. Because if we can teach kids these tools, maybe they won't turn their gifts off. And maybe they will be so much more evolved than we are and our parents and everyone before us. But I get off track. Okay, so there's this kids movie. It's called Free Birds. Now, I try to tell everyone to watch this because it has played out so much in my life, this experience. So the thing is, it's about time travel and this turkey who gets pardoned and so on, but time travel. And so the theme is that they're going back to save Thanksgiving and make it so the turkeys don't get eaten, which is cool.
Aw,
So,
yeah.
um, but what happens is that the turkey that's the main character gets this knock at the door, and it's this turkey that happens to look just like him, who is telling him, I'm the great turkey, and you're here to save Thanksgiving. And like listening to the themes behind this. So he has the sacred time knob, which is a doorknob. And, I have a doorknob because of this, because I love the reminder.
Oh,
Um, I'm not crazy and just keep a doorknob in my room. Um,
I love it.
but this idea that someone he says he's from the future, and he hands him this doorknob and he says, you're going to do something really important. And tells him, a general overview, do these things. And that empowers the younger current version of that turkey to go on that mission to accomplish that thing. And I'm not going to give away how it all works. So you should really watch it because it's so fun. We watch it every Thanksgiving. Um, but in the end, so he has this idea and this knowing that he's supposed to do something, that he's meant for more, and that you know, what he's doing is about the bigger picture. It's not about your personal experience, your personal lifetime. And then as he goes throughout this process, he knows, well, there has to be something because the great turkey told me this is what I had to do. And I'm following that guidance. And then you come to realize at the end, in this like layers of, it's really, really funny. You should watch it. So he shows up at the end, and then he's like, I don't believe this is what's going on. And then another version of him comes from the future, and another one and another one. They stack up, and it's really funny because there's all these turkeys that are all identical because they're all the same turkey. So he's like, no, you don't get it. It's all you. It's always been you. So you came from the future to impart this guidance and this wisdom within this younger version of yourself so that you accomplish this amazing thing. And throughout my life, like watching that movie, I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this throughout my life. Like I always felt that there was like this innate, like you get this innate idea, this wisdom that is so much more, and you have this mission you have to accomplish, whatever mundane thing or whatever it is, but you just know in that like gut instinct of yourself, you have to do something. And then hopefully you listen. Sometimes you don't, but hopefully you listen. And then when you do, later on, you're like, I knew I had to do that. Where did it come from? And then you realize, 20 years down the road, you're like, I'm the great turkey. I'm realizing that like my new version of myself told my
Mm,
old version of myself what to do because it's
yeah.
all you in that moment. Just coming to that realization that all of these different timelines, they are all you. They are all pieces of you. And every single one of them is an integral part of this whole system, of this awareness, of this being, because the original version or the future version wouldn't exist. Like in your experience with your dream, the ascended version of you having that, these magical experiences and learning about this medicine wouldn't have existed if the current version of you hadn't gone through all of the experiences that you've gone through to get you to that place. And that even in that ascended version of you, you came back and you said, hey, I need your help. And that feeling of
Mm,
that tandem and that knowing that every
mhm.
single piece is integral, even
Yeah.
those in the kindergarten version of ascension, they're all necessary.
Mhm.
You know, at whatever stage of your growth and your development and your awareness, whatever stage you're at, you need each other,
Yeah.
every version of yourself. And how empowering that is, how humbling that is. The versions of yourself you'd like to forget, the mistakes you made, whatever.
Yeah.
The really, really dumb things. You're like, oh my God, really, I did that. But no, you need those versions because each and every single one of those builds you to the moment where you're at right now, which also builds you to where you're going.
Mhm.
And it all ties together that it is all you.
Yeah.
How humbling is that? And knowing that it's all happening all at the same time in the same place on these different layers of awareness, ascension, whatever, that is
Yeah.
all happening. Once you realize that and you kind of sit with that and you get present with that, that changes how you live your life.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I
Like
love it.
how do you live your life knowing you are the great turkey? Totally, totally watch that movie.
I will. I am going to watch that movie. I'm going to ask my teenagers to watch that movie as well. We're going to have fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that that teaching is coming through in a movie. And as you're sharing it, like I was getting full body chills that, yeah, it's always been you. You are the great turkey, right? You are the little turkey. You are all the turkeys. And yeah, it is so beautiful. And the way that we live our lives with that knowing, right? For me, I'm able to look at every single person and situation with a different lens than, oh, I did this thing to them or they did this thing to me. I can look at it from what part of me is this? What part of them is me? And where there is pain or fear or anger or victimization, I can recognize that like a neon light bulb blinking in my eyes when I see those emotions or feel them myself. I have this awareness that, oh, that's the place where love is asking to go. That's the place where love and compassion are asking to just exist. We can beat ourselves up with shame and guilt and woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? When I talk with spirit, they're always saying that quote, don't should on yourself, right? And that's very true. I would have done this. I could have done that. I should have done that. That is a waste of my energy. And so recognizing that, right? Recognizing that we're all the great turkey in our own lives. It helps us to get out of those loops where we might be stuck, like we were talking about at the beginning. We can take off the blinders and we can see more clearly what's really in front of us instead of just the thing that we're experiencing and we're not really understanding why or what is it teaching us, right? We can ask questions that give us better, broader perspective. Um, so yeah, I don't think it's some pie in the sky idea to evolve consciousness and to be a more compassionate being. But at the same time, I'm always mindful of those spaces where we like to say what things are. I'm always questioning, like, what is evolved consciousness? What is love? What is compassion? What is fear? Because it all comes back to how I'm perceiving it in the end. Even if someone else says the exact opposite thing as me, where's the truth in that? Who's right? Who's wrong? Right? There is no right or wrong. There is no ultimate truth. We all have different perspectives, like a stained glass window. We're all parts of the work of art. And if we can come from that mindset, we can release this constant need to scream with a megaphone that our version of reality is correct. And I think that would be a really powerful teaching for the world. Maybe everyone needs to see that movie. Like every single person. We could do a movie night at my center. See, now I'm I'm like, how do we evolve consciousness in a fun way?
But letting go of the idea that whatever experience someone is having, putting it through your own lens, when you look at it and you say, okay, well, my way is how it's supposed to be. How funny it is to think that, you know it all, like as though you are the only one with truth. When in reality, like you can look at a car and I've heard this analogy where like you can look at a car and then plus, someone describes it and they say, oh, well, the car is pristine. And a person looks from the opposite side of the car and they're like, no, this car is trashed because that side of the car had gotten in an accident, but you can't see it from this side of the car. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean that's truth, because your side looks great. And then maybe someone from up above is like, actually, there's some problems, but it's only on part of it. So that's yet another description of it. So maybe someone sitting in the car is like, well, back seat's all right, but it looks like maybe the front won't run very well. You know, each of those have their different perspective and are completely valid. And every single piece of those makes up the greater truth,
Yeah.
with none of those being less valued, less important. They're just different. And when you realize that, you can look at any person you walk by on the street, any experience you have, realizing that they're going through their own constellation of experiences like that, their own combination. So any interaction that you have with them is they're going to come from their perspective and they're going to share their perspective and their ideas of, well, you're too tall or you're too short or you're whatever to anything. Doesn't matter. And, you know, they may look at you and say, well, you're too much of this. And you can say, well, actually, you're way too much of that. And none of that matters. None of it's important because it's all just what is your awareness? And the whole idea is just to understand that. And instead of saying, well, that's wrong, your perspective, say, actually, we're all value. We're all important because my perspective plus your perspective and their perspective, all of that brings to the greater collective of knowledge, of information, of trust and understanding. And if you go from a state and try to push together and say, we're actually going through this experience together, all in our own unique way, our ray of light of who we are, and it's all okay. Then instead of my experience takes away from yours and, diminishes you, actually, if we stick together, nothing can stop us.
Yeah, I love that. It's it's beautiful when you have people that have an evolved perspective, that are able to zoom in and look at themselves, at the microcosm of their own experience and have awareness of it, and then zoom out and see the macrocosm of the experience that's being created because of the interconnectedness and the relatedness between all these parts. And as a human, we get into the crunchy place when you've got a bunch of people only focusing on themselves and not able to zoom out and honor that differences actually make us more. That the way we are different gives us a pathway to exponentiality. If we are all the same, if we're all vanilla ice cream, how boring ice cream would be. But we wouldn't even know, because we wouldn't even know strawberry or chocolate or bubblegum exist, right? So everyone that is in the identity of vanilla ice cream and thinks it's great and wants to stay there because it's comfortable, they'll never be able to explore or experience that current of Neapolitan, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry together, right? That is,
Mm.
that's the potential that we have. And so as we evolve our consciousness, it really is about letting go of these stories about what we think reality is, and recognizing that all, like you said, all realities are valid. We're not saying that one is better than the other, one is right or wrong. We're saying that all is required for this exponential expression to exist. I can decide I may resonate or not resonate with certain things. I can decide, do I want to create something new with this other energy that doesn't feel in resonance at all with me? I can choose that, but I can choose that without judgment, that that other thing that's not like me is wrong and it's bad, and so I must push it away. There's a difference. And then also, this goes a little bit down the rabbit hole, but this idea that because I allow all of creation to exist, the good, the bad, the ugly, that then somehow I'm passive and I'm allowing the evil to win because I refuse to fight against the thing that is. And so I play with that in my mind, this little spiral, right? Of balancing. I acknowledge that this is part of reality. I acknowledge it. I can acknowledge it and still manage my own energy. I can refuse to give it power. But if I, it's like in the Harry Potter books where they don't say the name of Voldemort. You don't say the name because it gives the name power. You're literally giving the name power because you're refusing to say the name, right? You're refusing to acknowledge that something yucky exists. And so it has power over you. But the moment you say, you know what? That energy is kind of messed up. That energy is not something I want to go to dinner with. Okay, fair enough. But if you pretend it doesn't exist, it's already controlling you.
Absolutely.
That's what that zoomed out perspective can give. That's why these experiences with other dimensions and dream states and meditation and plant medicine and evolving our consciousness in whatever way we are called is so beautiful. And having this conversation about this forbidden topic of, can we have multiple timelines? Can we have multiple identities? Can we be so much more than we think? Of course. But oh, if we talk about it, someone might think we're crazy. Well, guess what? My crazy train is really, really fun. And there's plenty of room for lots of people. I never have a boring day.
It's a whole caravan.
It totally is. I might have some hippie flowers on the sides, but why not?
You brought the whole circus.
I did. Oh. So as
And
far as the conversation, oh, go ahead.
once you open up your awareness to that and allow that to start coming in and allow yourself to expand your gifts and to grow and just sit in that trust of you know who you are and you start to have these experiences, you can't go back. You you can turn it off and say, don't give me any more right now, or however long, and they'll stop, but that doesn't take away from your experience. And at any given moment, you can say, all right, I'm ready for more. I want more. And those things are always there. And those are innate gifts that every single person has the ability to tune in and to connect with the energetic realm, the realm that is all there is. And once you do, there's no going back. That is like the most amazing and real rabbit hole you could ever imagine. And if there's one gift that anyone does, any listener, is just be open and see how it changes your life for the better and how much more magic and beauty comes into your life because you're open and you're willing.
Yeah.
Oh, and tell us your stories. We
Yes, I
want to
want to hear
hear
all the
it.
stories. Yeah, I tell people all the time that connecting with our multidimensionality, connecting with our intuition requires gratitude and curiosity. It requires a mindset of wonder. I wonder what comes. I wonder who I am. I'm curious what this universe has to offer. If you don't have that mindset, it doesn't work. So it's okay to be discerning of what is right for you and what is not. But there's a difference between discernment and judgment. There's a difference between managing your energy and allowing yourself to be fully resourced or drained by the programs, the labels, the expectations, the judgments of others, the judgments of yourself. And it's like we've got to learn to master our minds, to master our thoughts, to choose the thoughts that we have that feed our emotions, that then fuel our actions. That is an aligned state: mind, body, heart, soul, earth. But if our mind is at odds with our heart, or our heart is at odds with what we've created in the world, maybe we're in a relationship we don't like or a job we don't like, our heart's not in it. I hear that a lot in my work. It's not about the job. It's not about the relationship. It's not about the thing you think you lack. It's about where's your heart? Can we put our heart into everything we're doing, wherever we are, whatever choices we've made? Can we bring our heart there? Or do we place it on a leash? Well, I'll only let my heart be free when and if these specific perfect things happen. Okay, now you're just wasting life, from my perspective. So yeah, it's all those things. Some things just suck. And some things are just amazingly beautiful. And as humans, we get to navigate all of it, right? Like a little tugboat. Sometimes the waters of the ocean are calm, and sometimes there's a tidal wave that capsizes the boat and we got to get back up. Right? It's all part of it. But can we even be open to that? Can we be open to the changing of the seasons and the changing of the weather without judging it? Can we just have the ride? So I don't know. I think that's what helps me open to some of those places. Like I'm just very curious, naturally creative. Um, I tried to shut my intuition off when I was young because I was told it was wrong. I was told it was scary. I was told others would be scared of me, and they were. Um, I've got lots of stories of those kinds of things, but in my heart of hearts, like you said, when you have these experiences, they cannot be turned off or shut down, at least not completely. Or in the Matrix, right? You take the red pill or the blue pill. Once you take the pill, right, ain't no going back. I mean, you could, but it's really hard. Hmm. So, is there anything else you want to share about like dimensionality and timelines and just exploring that space? Or do you feel complete for today? Coming up on time?
I don't think we have another 3 days that we could be talking. Uh, if you want to hear more, I guess you'll just have to tune in till next time.
Yeah, tune in the next time. I love that. But wait, there's more.
But there's always more.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for being here today, Catherine. I just love our conversations. And I know that we go in all these different directions that we're not expecting. So thank you
Mhm.
for going on the ride with me.